Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Operation and Public Safety Committee meeting. Today is February 4th. We're going to get started here. Call this meeting to order. I'm going to ask our clerk to do a roll call, please.
Thank you, Council President. Council President Boyce.
Here.
Councilmember Fincher.
Here.
Councilmember Kaur.
Here.
Councilmember Larmer.
Here.
Councilmember Michaud.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Troutner.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 3. Any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. Well, not a change, but if you downloaded the agenda prior to mid-afternoon, you don't have the most up-to-date version. We've retitled item 4.1.2 for accuracy. So the original title was Consultant Services Agreement. It now should read Cooperative Purchase Agreement with Cisco Systems. That is a title change only and no substance change to the motion or presentation.
Thank you, sir. With that said, I'm going to ask for a motion for the agenda today.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Let the record show unanimous pass. We'll move on to the business of the meeting today. And item number A is approval of the minutes, like a motion for approval of the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Let the record show unanimous pass. We'll move on to item number B, cooperative purchase. And this is from our IT team, Mr. Endicott. That is not Mr. Endicott.
Surprise.
I love surprises.
Some of us do. Well, hello, council members. My name's Galen Hirschi. I'm the network engineering supervisor in IT department. And I'm presenting to you today this cooperative purchase agreement with Cisco Systems. It's an authorization only. There's no purchasing. Basically, real quick past history here. The city has entered into an agreement with the State of Washington Department of Enterprise Services, DES, for when they purchase and make contract negotiations. We're allowed to purchase off of those through that agreement. Then in turn, they have also entered into an agreement with a national purchasing cooperative referred to as NASPO, who does a lot of contract negotiations, for states. And so there's a contract that NASPO has entered into with Cisco Systems, and the state DES has also elected to participate in that contract, which now gives us the ability to purchase off of it with your authorization. Cisco is basically a supplier of data communications equipment, networking equipment, and services. And the city doesn't have an immediate need for purchase right now. This is just an authorization only. We're basically seeking approval to purchase in the future Cisco equipment. And it's, of course, within established city-approved budgets and the terms of the master agreement, which you have as part of this. Is there any questions that I can answer?
Council members, any questions? You're not doing anything, so why we just in case?
Yeah, it's literally so that in the future, when we decide to, make those purchases, then we have already got the contract and the authorization in place.
I see no questions, so I guess I'm going to ask for a motion on this here, please.
Oh, sure. Chair, I move to authorize the IT department to purchase data communications products and services through the cooperative purchasing agreement the State Department of Enterprise Services has with Cisco Systems, Inc., if those purchases are within the city's established budgets and made during the term of the state contract, which is in effect through September 30th, 2024, but may be extended through September 30th, 2026 or later.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record show unanimous pass.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Move on to item number C, East Police Substation lease extension. We have Commander Groves.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Andy Grove. Now I'm here to formally request a 5-year extension to our existing lease for the East Hill Police Substation located at 25635 104th Avenue Southeast. The substation allows officers to conduct office work while remaining in their patrol district, increases response time to emergencies, and offers police presence in a busy area of the city. The space has been leased by the city since 2016 and is particularly important now because we had to give up our Panther Lake substation in 2020 due to rent increases. While we're currently working with the legal department to finalize the extension agreement, we are seeking council approval to have the mayor sign the agreement once the terms are complete. Although there may be some minor updates to the draft you received, the rental term and the rental rate should not change. If approved, the terms of the lease will be for a 5-year period from August 2021 through July 2026. The city will pay a monthly rate of $1,800 per month. In years 2 through 5 of the lease, the rent will increase by 2% per year, which is the industry standard. An additional fee of about $7 per month will go to maintenance, landscaping, and trash removal. Is there any questions about our request to?
Any questions for Commander Groves? Councilmember Lawler.
Yeah, I do have a question. So the $1,800 a month, is that below market rate?
It's right at market rate, but we think it's a good rate.
Okay. And then the location, has our needs changed? Because I know that 240th is an area of concern for us, 240th and Benson, crime-wise.
Sure.
Is this still this one over on, on 256th and Benson essentially? Is it still worth it? I mean, should we be looking at something in the 240th?
I think it's a really good place to remain due to KM being there, the activity historically that we've had at McDonald's, plus all of the activity in the area. We have a pretty good relationship with the business owners who are very happy to have our presence there. But it's also been difficult to find an additional space in lieu of the Panther Lake Station. So although that's definitely on our radar as a spot, we don't want to give up the 104th and 256th.
Okay, but we are looking at potentially since we did move out of Panther Lake, potentially moving into that 240th.
I think that's an option. Whether we've looked specifically at that intersection for a substation, I don't know, but yeah.
Because the benefits of the presence
Sure.
of a
Sure.
substation, I think, are great. So,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lawler. Any other questions for Commander Groves? If not, I'd like to ask for a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to authorize the mayor to enter into a lease extension agreement with the Kent Hill LLC, an additional 5-year term to maintain a police substation on the East Hill, subject to final lease terms and conditions acceptable to the police chief and city attorney.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record show unanimous pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the last item. There's no action. Item D, this is from Chief Padilla, and information only regarding 8 Can't Wait. Chief.
Yes, thank you, Council President, members of City Council. It's good to see you. If you remember, we ran out of time last time, so I promised to bring back this information. There were questions we'd received regarding a status update on the 8 Can't Wait initiative. For background on that, remember that was a police reform initiative that started back with 21st Century Policing, President Obama's initiative, right? So it's been around for a while. The good news is we were already out in front of all of these things, and those things that we weren't have become state law. And so it's all, most of what I'm going to tell you is the update is we are following state law on all of these. So if you remember, it called for a ban on chokeholds and strangleholds, which we had not allowed in our policy even prior to the 8th They Can't Wait. But State House Bill 1054 now also prohibits the use of vascular neck restraints. If you remember, we suspended those in 2020 before it became law in 2021, and now we are simply following along. We've updated our policies. We're following state law on that. Number 2 of the 8 required de-escalation. We've talked a lot about that. We've been doing and continue to require de-escalation, and we reinforce it through our training, particularly in our scenario-based training and firearms training. As I mentioned, it's now state law. Is part of, I believe, House Bill 1054, but I get the numbers switched around, but it is state law. It's required as basic education and ongoing education for police officers, and so we are complying with that. Number 3 was require warnings before shooting. We follow the state law on this, and when feasible, we do issue a warning, and that's what the law requires. We've been training that. That has not changed in decades, so that's the same. Number 4, exhaust all other means before shooting. In addition to the ongoing de-escalation training in practice, we've also equipped with less lethal weapons. If you remember, we have beanbag and 40 millimeter rubber batons. In addition to, we are currently experimenting with a product called Bowler Wrap, where it shoots a lanyard around and kind of, when effective, will trap somebody's arms and legs. So we are looking to provide our officers with the training and tools so they don't have to use firearms when appropriate, in addition to de-escalation. So just a footnote there, not all circumstances allow for that, but we are given those tools. That was also required by House Bill 1310. Duty to intervene. If you remember, this is also now state law. Prior to that, Kent Police established its own policy on duty to intervene. To reinforce that policy, we went through a certification program called ABLE, Active Bystandership for Law Enforcement, which is a national program put together by Georgetown Law School. Not every department is certified in this, but Kent is now. We have our sworn officers who have gone through the course. As a reminder, I spoke about this before, but ABLE focuses on training officers how to appropriately intervene to prevent misconduct, and to prevent in a proactive way so that we don't even have to worry about misconduct, and then also focuses on wellness. So it reinforces RCW 43-191-485, which is going to require all law enforcement in the state to adopt a policy on this based on the model policy that is being put together by the Criminal Justice Training Commission. There are deadlines in the law for that, I believe as late as June of this year. So as soon as the CJTC furnishes that model policy, we will cross-reference it with our policy, fill in any of the gaps, and we will follow the model policy recommended by the state. But we are ahead of the game as we speak. Number 6, ban shooting at moving vehicles. We have a policy that prohibits this, and House Bill 1054 now regulates this, and we follow the law. Number 7, require use of force continuum. This is one of those where, at the time, the force continuum was a model nationally that was recommended and used in a lot of places. We still have excerpts of that, but it is passé. It's an outdated matrix for looking at force, right? So we have moved to a more comprehensive model that requires officers to do an assessment of several factors, including the suspect's actions, their ability to commit harm and injury to another, their physical and mental state. Are they suffering from what appears to be mental illness or some kind of medical disability? Are they pregnant, right? So if you look at our laws now, we've progressed much further than simply looking at this person's using this level of force, so we should use this level of force to overcome it, which was the old use of force continuum model. So that is not an issue for us because we believe we've progressed way past use of force continuum. And then last, number 8 was require comprehensive reporting. As you know, we have limited capacity here. We've done a recent data consultant on this. We have some data. We're building our infrastructure. We will soon have a data analyst for this purpose. But additionally, Senate Bill 5259, which was passed this last year by the state legislature, is going to require a universal force reporting system for all law enforcement in the state. They are just now setting up the committee of representatives that will oversee establishing the rules for that. But soon, in the next year or so, we will have a system that all law enforcement provides data on. We will comply with all the mandates from that. And we're going to be in good shape to report because we're already building systems on our own. So that was the 8 that can't wait, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Chief, for sharing that with us. What was number 1 again? I'm sorry.
Ban chokeholds and strangleholds.
Okay. I missed that one. Thank you. Marley, you got a question? Like your light's on.
Oh, sorry, no, that was,
Okay.
yep.
Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Mr. President. So Chief, on 5259, the universal reporting, is that required only for use of force or reporting some of the other types of things that I've asked about before, like the stops where no ticket or citation is issued,
So
but
that's-
contacts?
That's a good question. So that's to be meted out through the rules process of that representative group. I think the focus of the legislation was predominantly force encounters, but if you read through the language in there, it also talks about police activity and things of that we've had discussions about the discretionary context that law enforcement have. So I don't know what the outcome's going to be on that. Obviously, the committee's going to have to figure that out, but the committee is made up of community representation, law enforcement, and then data analysts, experts in the field that will be consulting. And then the program oversight will be done by a local university. And I want to say Wazoo's going to be the university for that.
Thank you.
Any other question for the Chief?
I do.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please, Councilmember.
Thank you, Council President. So, I don't know a lot about police procedures and stuff, but it seems to me that if an officer, the last thing he wants to do is fire his weapon because of the amount of paperwork, as I understand, and you can help me with that, but it seems like, yeah, that's the last thing. I mean, I'd try anything but the gun. You say that's a fair statement?
I would say that using deadly force is always the last thing any of our officers wants to do in general. Law enforcement officers got in this profession to help people, to save lives, to prevent violence from occurring. So this is always something that they're resistant to do. And so, yes, I agree in the sense that it's not something officers take lightly. And in my experience, only do when they absolutely have to.
And is it true there is paperwork every time a gun is fired?
Yes, for any use of force, we have a policy and soon to be state law that we report every use of force incident in writing. And that's, and just to expand, that's reviewed by the chain of command. And because we have body worn cameras, we have an extra step of reviewing those use of forces through body worn camera footage.
Thank you, Chief.
Councilmember Troutner? You good? Councilmember Larmer?
Yeah, Chief, the data analysts that we'll be hiring as part of this, what department will that analyst report into?
To the police department.
Okay. I think it would be, in to the benefit of like community trust building and transparency, perhaps if that role could report into IT or perhaps even the CAO or something. So I would encourage that to be considered. So thank you.
Okay. Of course, that's a personnel issue, so we'll definitely take that into consideration. Derek sitting up there, so thank you. Any other question? Okay. That's all we have for today.
Thank you.
We're going to adjourn until our workshop at 5, so thank you.